of owning a cafe and other heroic deeds by Beware the Tostado. Chapter 106, Saturday, Part 10. Standing across from Kachan, her smile determined, Oako sucked in a breath and relaxed her shoulders, just as Shoni had taught her. Then the referee, going back over the rules, she and her group's self-appointed leader bowed formally at each other. This was it. This was an opportunity for her to measure what she'd learned against someone who wouldn't hold back, who wouldn't dream of insulting her in such a way. Hajime! Expelling a breath, she and Katsuki circled each other, both looking for an opening. She knew of his weaknesses, just as he knew hers. The clock was ticking, and their left feet pushing a little more firmly upon the matting, they rushed at each other. Knowing that Kachan always led with his classic right hook, she managed to effectively block it and counter with punches of her own. Damn, his chest was solid. Nuts! Then they started to exchange blows. What you think? Don't leave your midsection unguarded! Sure enough, the blonde wasn't going to take any prisoners. She felt every punch, winced with every kick. Get your arms in! You're backing up! Come on, push me! However, she was planting her fair share of attacks too. Ha! Yes! That's it, Choco! Keep going! This would be easier if you weren't so determined, Kachan! That kick was incredible! But she was a realist, and not to hate on herself, but... Ah! Good try! Your speed is ridiculous! Out of the two of them, well, Katsuki had the greater ambition, the greater passion. He'd probably been brawling in one way or another since he was in diapers. You ready? Bring it! And so when her strike failed to land, the blonde wasted no time in snagging her arm, wrenching it back, and throwing them both to the ground. Oof! It was, all things considered, a classic move. 1! Wriggling and scrambling, she tried to get up. 2! And sure, this was a tournament. She couldn't exactly deploy that cat-dead special or any of the clever tactics she'd been taught to maximize pain in someone trying to hurt her, but that didn't mean she couldn't wriggle, writhe, and struggle. 3! That way, as the referee decreed her friend's victory over her, she didn't feel bad about losing because she'd honestly done everything she could. For now. My Jacob! That was amazing! Smiling genuinely, she gratefully accepted the hand Katsuki offered to her and allowed him to pull her up. Thank you, she returned, the pair of them bowing. And congratulations, Kachan. I'm willing to bet my pop ring cookies that you'll get to the final, you know. She chuckled before reaching for his right hand and lifting it up in victory to the sounds of their friends, cheering before they shared a hug and walked back to their group. You guys, that was so intense, it's so wicked, amazing, and womanly! Oh, Cha-Cha, you got real guts, you know? Dude, you've leveled up your defense to go with your offense, huh? That was totally sweet! That was really exciting to watch, kiddo. Chuckling and allowing themselves to be swamped by the group, Oako then looked to find Shoni kneeling next to her with a neck towel, a bottle of water, and that same parental pride that I love to see. You did an excellent job, he praised. I kept fighting right to the end. I am beyond proud of you. Feeling her smile wobble a little, she threw herself in for a hug, her form preening as he squeezed her tight before pulling away to ruffle her hair. Now, in a minute, I want you to go take a breather, have a drink, and relax, okay? He said while she blinked. But first, I want you to make your way to Toshinori and the others. He grinned, his hand pointing to where the other men were waving, the number one's phone in hand. Wait, was he on FaceTime? Your mom and dad are pretty desperate to congratulate you, you know. Watching as Oako scampered away, Shoto then turned his attention to Katsuki, his hands offering the lad the other water bottle and towel he'd been carrying. That was an excellent display of skill, he told them fondly, the other children crowding around the boy as he similarly fluffed those jagged locks of ashy blonde. And I'm incredibly proud of you. You treated your opponent with respect and secured your victory with the kind of poise and due diligence any pro would aspire to. He complimented the crimson-eyed boy, gazing up at him in wonder, his cheeks banged a little. Now let's get you sat down, rested, and ready for the third round, he told him while standing. Plus, we all need to get ready for everyone else to do just as well as you and Oako did, don't we? He furthered. At the Yosh! The children gave him in exchange. He ushered them to sit back down before his gaze searched for Isuku. When their eyes met, he offered him a nod of encouragement. For despite the freckled child wearing a smile that shined of confidence, he'd extensively studied that young man and knew that he was conflicted. Out of all the children to face one of the Todorokis, he'd silently hoped that Isuku wouldn't be one of them. Not out of worry of him losing or getting hurt, but because of his heart. His big, beautiful heart. Regardless of the outcome, it was going to take a lot of tender care and affection to help him get over this, for if he won, then Shoto could go to his mother, brother, and sister now with the sting of defeat biting at his psyche, and if he lost, then Shoto wouldn't be reunited with his family until later. And you could see that conflict alighting those clever, compassionate eyes, even as they got into their start positions. "Whatever happens," he told him quietly before the boy had stood and prepared to face his opponent. "This isn't the end game. And look at the good you've already done for him, Izu. You'll continue to light his darkness from now on, okay? Just remember that, and then treat this match like any other spar you faced," he'd said. "I believe in you, alright?" Swallowing thickly, Isuku offered Shoto the formal greeting of his discipline, and then relaxed his shoulders. "Hajime!" Just as he thought, his fellow 9-year-old rushed him straight off the bat, his features a grim, determined mask. Woo! Managing to counter the fist thrown his way with relative ease, he thought he might have seen the other boy blink in shock. That shock soured to anger, though, when he was able to land a rapid set of punches across the other's chest before aiming a kick to his midsection. However, not to be outdone, whatever sympathy Shoto may have been harboring because the other knew he was quirkless was soon shoved to the wayside. Ooh! Because, without a second's hesitation, the slightly shorter boy was on him. His fists were a flurry of motions, his stance was strong, and he was guarded across the majority of his weak spots. But Shoni had taught them all jujitsu, hadn't he? And jujitsu was a defensive art. Therefore, after 2 years' worth of practice, he was prepared. When Shoto went for his ribs, he blocked him and attempted to grapple the offending arm into a disabling hold. When Shoto made to sweep his legs out from under him, he predicted the move based on the other's posture and either jumped to avoid the move or sidestepped to launch his own counterattack. When Shoto aimed for his face, his neck was craning before the approaching fists were within reach. They'd been dancing like this for a good 5 minutes. The other wasn't getting tired. His cold, calm demeanor was still in place. He wasn't allowing him time to find a weakness to exploit, and after having watched his first match, since it had been over so quickly, he'd not been able to form a strategy to combat him effectively. Gritting his teeth, his mind flagged that the other was pushing him toward the outer edge because he couldn't break him down or get through his defenses. Izuku cautiously measured the distance between them and the boundary whose crossing would ensure a defeat. He could use that to his advantage, couldn't he? It'd be tricky, sure, and risky besides. But after seeing how the other held himself, he calculated that there was a good 60% chance of him securing the other boy by the gi and flipping him into the boundary. It was worth a shot, wasn't it? Midoriya Izuku was something else. Sure, it was nothing compared to fighting with Master Xiao back in the monastery or the training Chichue had put him through, but the freckled boy was like a wall of will and strength. He had barely been able to make contact, and at this rate he wouldn't be able to drag him to the floor for a successful pin either. What? Therefore, since any of the more impactful movesets he'd been taught were tournament illegal, he needed to shove the other boy out of the ring. The other boy who claimed to only train properly on Sundays. The other boy who didn't work out until he collapsed. The other boy who wasn't punched in the gut until he was sick to build resistance. The other boy who laughed, joked, and smiled with his friends. God, it was so unfair. Ha! Not that he begrudged the other boy. No, not at all. It was... Why? Why couldn't he live that kind of life? Why couldn't he enjoy himself in the company of others? Pah! Shit. When he wouldn't give to have that kind of experience, to live that kind of life. God, did he even want this? Did satisfying his father's desires truly matter? What more could he take away from him if he refused? How much more could he hurt him? Toya was gone, Mom was gone, Natsumo and Fuyumi were virtually strangers to him. Shotogun? He didn't want this. I'm sorry. He was done. Natsumo felt his hand slowly but surely crushing the virtually empty water bottle he held, his head shaking in fear-tinged denial. No, he breathed, his eyes tearing. Shoto! Shit! He gasped, his gaze darting around for the nannies and finding them still absent. He was up and running to a match that paused. The match where his little brother, the apple of the tyrant's eye, was stood facing the green-haired kid they'd both been chatting with, whilst the League of Cafe similarly rushed over with their teacher. Shoto! Shit, the young prodigy didn't acknowledge him or the referee talking to him either. If the boy gave up, if he walked away, what should he do? How could he protect him? He wasn't Toya. Hell, even if he was brave enough to try and stand between the brute who'd sired them and his youngest sibling, what possible hope did he have of being successful? Fire melted ice. Endeavor was a 6'4" wall of muscle, anger, and stoicism. He'd be less than fucking useless. Shoto! Fuck. Of all the ways he'd envisioned today going, this hadn't even been a factor, and so as I flicking to Toshinori, Shoto was on the scene in seconds. Easy now. He breathed, his tone gentle, whilst he joined the referee on the sideline. Okay, he said, gaze flitting from Isuku to Shoto, his kids, and to where Natsuo was also on approach. Todoroki-kun, can you hear me? Yes. Letting out a little sigh of relief, the eatery owner smiled gently. Would you like to stop the match? Wait! Sighing as the child snapped his head up, he also turned to where the white-haired youth was skidding to a halt, his heart clenching. The kid looked terrified. Shoto, you can't. He rasped, his features pale and formed out of breath. You can't lose. He isn't going to lose. Blinking, Shoto felt his smile soften further, whilst his other kids gasped and whispered, for there, his body taking 2 steps towards the devastated-looking other 9-year-old, his outstretched right hand to him once more. We can draw, he said, his expression the very definition of compassion. What? Looking on, he gave Isuku a thumbs up when the dots neat to glance at him. This kid! We can walk out in this ring together, right now, the youth continued. That way you don't lose. There's no loss, and we can go get a snack and meet some of my other friends, he offered before those large emerald eyes zeroed in on a fidgeting, distressed Natsuo. And you can come too. No, look, you don't understand. The 12-year-old stammered. We know more than you think, Todoroki-kun. He cut in softly, his hands raised placatingly. And I am telling you now, everything is all right. You're going to be okay, I promise. He furthered the boy's brows, reaching for his hairline, when a few more members of staff came over, their hands flashing the child their police force badges. What? We know who your father is, and what you've had to endure, he told him, his gaze then moving back to Shoto, who openly bonked at him. And that ends today, he stated firmly, his kids nodding next to him. All you have to do is walk with these officers and your new friends to where your sister is waiting, all right? Then, his head moving to watch Natsuo swallow and huff almost incredulously, he stood up from his crouch to observe Shoto, who was staring fixedly at Isuku. Is this really happening? I know it must be hard to believe, their resident analyst admitted, whilst taking another step forward, his hand open, steady. But this is real? And we can go right now together to somewhere safe. He enthused, that dazzling smile back ablaze. Together. Mean it. Of course I do, Shoto-kun. The other veritably chirped, his fellow tats juggling, and then those quaking shoulders straightening a touch. The youngest Todoroki reached out, clasped that hand. Okay. And then as one, they stepped out of the ring.